I think that people judge a book by its cover. So I
Hmm.
think that they judge me by my cover. I have lashes on, right? I have heard somebody say, I can't learn nothing from you because you have lashes on. One situation, there was an 18-year-old girl. She rented it out and she crashed into a restaurant within 10 minutes. She's kept calling and calling and calling, giving out death threats. Oh, I'm going to sue you because you didn't teach me how to drive the three-wheel car. And so I was like, you think you can sue me, but in the back end, you don't even know that you can't sue me because my business is owned by a trust.
All right, welcome to the Finder's Corner, where entrepreneurs stick and move and groove. I'm your host, Corey Walker, and we have a special guest today, Christina Yvette, who is a trust strategist who teaches people how to create multiple streams of income so they can retire young. She has a robust financial education firm called Seven Ways to Wealth that she has founded and is a creator of the Wealthy Trustee Program, where she has used her expertise to help hundreds of families protect their assets and become good stewards of growing their wealth and establishing trust and begin operating in trusteeship. Without further ado, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Christina Yvette. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Corey. Thank you so much for bringing me on here. I'm super excited. I just love talking about, these types of things, like people protecting their assets and actually making sure that their kids get their inheritance and multiple streams of income. Anything finance, it lights me up.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Christina, I've had the privilege and the honor to share the stage with you on a few different occasions. I know one mainly was we did a speak at. I had the honor and privilege to share the stage with you at Access Granted. I believe that's when we first met, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Access Granted was a really good conference, and both of us, we just dominated on that stage. We helped as many people as we can get this financial literacy that they need, and that's what I feel like is lacking out here. Is that a lot of our people, that's what I'm focused on, to be honest with you. A lot of our people don't have the financial literacy that they need to really build the wealth that they was put on this earth to build. And so you and I together, amongst a lot of other heavy hitters in the industry, we just dominated that stage and helped so many lives. We impacted those people by teaching them about like what you teach them, right? Credit and finance and funding, and what I teach, which is about, asset protection and preservation of the generational wealth that they're creating.
Excellent. And we had such a great time, as she alluded to. And I want to tell the people a little bit about who you are. I mean, I know you personally. You've invited me to your platform on several different occasions. You have a great following and a strong community. I know you're on YouTube. Tell the people a little bit about some of the platforms and how they can reach out to you, and a little bit about what you got going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I am a YouTuber, you guys. I am heavy into YouTube University. That's like my number one platform where I just like to get in touch with as many people as possible. And on my platform, it's called Seven Ways to Wealth, and it's the number seven. So on there, you can learn a lot of different things. So on there, I teach about different ways that you can earn passive income. I'm all about passive income because I feel like we have subscribed to this whole idea in society that we need to work hard for money. And I personally don't subscribe to that. And so we have been taught that we need to work for, 40 hours a week for 40 years, retire when we're 65, and then that's when we get financial freedom, or then that's when we get time freedom or location freedom, where we don't have to ask our boss, for 2 weeks vacation. And so I had the privilege of being blessed to retire from my career as a nurse. So I was a nurse for 8 years, you guys, and that was the toughest 8 years of my life because I was living paycheck to paycheck. But it taught me a lot, and so I was able to retire at 31 years old. And I tell people, if you make that decision that I'm only going to be in this career to make a couple of dollars, to invest, to then get into other passive streams of income, then you will also have that, that opportunity to retire young, right? I don't think that we have to wait until we're in our 60s to retire. And so because I decided not to subscribe to what society was telling us is the norm, and I did it my own way, which is very unconventional, I, was able to retire in my 30s, but that was only because I decided to invest. I decided to take risks. I decided to jump off a mountain. I decided to put my money in different places that's actually going to make me money,
That's
right?
right.
I decided to pimp out my money, to be honest with you. And so because I decided to pimp out my money and make the money, that is why I get to, create my own schedule, and get to travel, and I get to teach other people how to create different passive streams of income. So that's what my platform is all about. That's what I teach on YouTube, different streams of income. And it could be through real estate, it could be through creating digital products. It could be through Forex trading. It could be through any of those different avenues, but it all boils down to the finance. It all boils down to having your money make money for you, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
passively.
And you talked about a little bit about how you got started, and as an entrepreneur, we got a lot of entrepreneurs listening in. You talked about taking that step of faith to step out and do it on your own. What were some of the challenges that you had to deal with, and taking that step, or when did you find that it was the time to do it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I have faced so much adversity when it comes to, like, my career, and I live by this notion, right? Walk by faith, not by sight, because the sight can look very scary. And so sometimes you in this dark tunnel and you don't see the light, but you have to keep going. And I tell people all the time, please do not let fear hold you back, because it actually held me back, right? I always wanted to start my platform, right? And I wanted to start it sooner rather than later. But I let fear hold me back to the point that it held me back for 5 years before I even started having the courage to even go on YouTube, right? And now today I have almost 10,000 subscribers, which I'm so grateful for. But it took that leap of faith. It took me to look fear in the face and say, I'm going to do it anyways. I don't care, what people think I look like, what people think I sound like, or anything. I'm not going to be embarrassed or anything. I'm going to do it while I'm still scared. And that's what I do. And so that's why I show up every single week on YouTube, and I show up in person, right? Me and you, we were on stage. And so that's a scary thing. It's a
Hmm.
scary thing to be on stage in front of hundreds of people and be educating them, but you do it anyways while you're scared. And
Yes.
that is how you're going to get to the next level and achieve the success that you were brought in this world to do. You was put on this world to be successful and to, be a vessel for other people, and that's how you're going to do it.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So, in your journey of entrepreneurship, um, what is something that one of the successes that you start? Because you can start a thing, but you don't know the outcome. What are some of the successes or something that happened that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I mean, so many things has happened to me throughout the years. Like, I had started off my entrepreneur journey flipping houses. That's how I became the entrepreneur that I am today. So it was in 2015 when I was still working as a nurse and I was saving up my paychecks, and I had saved up $25,000 in cash, you guys. And I was like, okay, I'm going to flip this. I'm going to invest this. So I end up going to one of these 3-day seminars where they teach you about real estate. So I learned about real estate and I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start flipping houses. If these guys could do it, I could do it too. And they giving me the blueprint. So, I had to have the courage to be able to do it. But when I got into real estate and I started flipping my first property, right? I got this little tiny house in North Miami Beach. It was, a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. And I purchased it for $89,000. And I had to figure things out, throughout the time, right? So I didn't even know that there was a garage. The garage had been, converted, and I was hit with all of these crazy amount of fees, right? So it was like violations, and I had to undo everything that the previous buyer, a previous seller did, and everything. So I was like, I'm not going to let this hold me back. I'm not going to let just this one bump in the road or this little hiccup on
Yes.
my first property actually, set me back to the point that I don't want to do real estate anymore.
Hmm.
So I just, I didn't give up. I continued on, even though it cost me more to repair that house than what I even had, right? It cost me more than $25,000. But I end up, going through with it, end up having to get a loan from friends and family, end up figuring it out. And that's one thing that I love is that sometimes you will figure it out in the trenches, right? Sometimes you think that everything is laid out and perfect for you. And then once you get into the project or into the deal or into whatever partnerships, then things come out of left field. But it's up to you if you want to give up, or if it's up to you if you want to say, no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep climbing this ladder until I get to the top. And so I, faced the adversity, but I decided to keep going. And ultimately, even though it cost me more, it cost me double, right? Because those fines and everything equal like $50,000. So
Right.
now instead of it costing me 25,000, it cost me 75. But originally I thought that I was going to sell this property for 170. I ended up selling it for 235.
Wow, look
So
at that.
God was in the mix the whole entire time. But it could have been that one first deal that took me out, but it
Well,
didn't. It
that's
was
right.
just it was just a learning lesson.
There you go. I mean, and those are, that's how you build your confidence and build your faith when you're back against the wall. I mean, many people could have quit, but that one event, kind of spurred you into a higher level, or I should say, push you to where you're at today in terms of business wise, because you're back against the wall. What are you going to do? And you could have easily packed up. You was in a situation of adversity where the odds were against you, but you fought it through and you actually made some money. So that's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship, right? I mean, going through those peaks and valleys and fighting through, and through each battle, you gain more and more strength. So that's awesome. Thanks for that.
You're
Now,
welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
and you're such a, entrepreneurial person. I mean, real estate, the trust. Um, Tell people a little bit more about, how that formation and how you help people in that regard.
Yeah, so because I got into real estate, right? And I had a mentor who was showing me the ropes, right? Because I believe in mentorship so heavily. Like I think that you should get guidance from someone who has already been where you want to go. And so because my mentor told me that's your first property and anything could happen, you need to put that property into a trust. I listened to what he said because all of his properties was in a trust. So if I wanted a portfolio like how he had a portfolio, then I needed to do what he did. So I set up a trust and I became a trustee at that time in 2015 when I had created my real estate investment firm. So because I became a trustee, I started operating in trust and I was doing all of my contracts, flipping all of my houses with trust. And what I noticed throughout the years is that a lot of people, they don't know about trust, right? They just were like, every time I would talk about it, they're like, huh, what is that? I heard a trust fund, but I don't know what it is. Can you tell me more about it? You have a holding company. What's that? What's the holding company? All this stuff. While an entity owns an entity, they had all of these questions and I had all of the answers. So what I did was a couple years later, I created a course. And in this course, I started teaching people how to actually set up their own trust contracts and how to get a bank account for the trust, how to put property in the trust, how to get funding for the trust. And that was almost 4 years ago. And so now throughout the years, people now they feel totally empowered because they have that foundational education about what a trust is and how to actually operate it and how to move with these type of contracts. Because you want to be moving contract to contract. And a lot of people don't know that. They use their personal name for everything, not even knowing that if you have these assets in your personal name, they could end up in probate. And so I've seen it so many times where our families lose these assets. They lose the house, they lose the cash money in the bank, they lose all of this stuff because they didn't protect the assets. They were so focused on making the money that that's all they cared about. And they just automatically thought in their head, my kids are going to get it, when I pass away. No, that's not true. If anything, the government is going to have their hands on it.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to protect it so that your kids can actually get it. And because I kept seeing it over and over again, how probate is taking 2 and 3 years, how siblings are fighting each other, how they're forced to sell mom and dad's house to pay Medicare and Medicaid, I was like, no, I'm going to start educating everyone, giving them the tools that they need so that they can actually make sure that their kids get their inheritance, make sure that the assets are protected, make sure that whatever they build, right? Because a lot of us, like I come from a minority, background, right? From
Hmm.
like my father, he's from Haiti. And so I've seen him build a lot of assets. It's like in our community, it's like one of the most prestigious things is to own a house, to be a homeowner here in
Right.
America. And so a lot of us were so focused on that, but we never think to ourselves, how am I going to transfer this house to my children? How am I going to protect this house? How am I going to preserve everything that I'm actually, building? And so it's up to me. It's my mission
Yeah.
to provide them with the tools that they need.
Wow. So you mentioned your father, and I've had opportunity to speak with them, very entrepreneurial. So you the apple doesn't fall far from the tree in that regard. What
Exactly.
what are some of the tokens that you've kind of taken from him that kind of help you in your entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, so my father, he is an entrepreneur. Both my parents, my father and my mother, both of them are entrepreneurs. And so my father, he was actually flipping houses. In his youth, he was flipping houses. He had a portfolio of 12 doors in Atlanta. And he, did everything with his bare hands, right? He
Right.
was a contractor. So he was renovating, he was buying, selling, renovating, doing everything himself. And so as a child growing up, me witnessing that, I was like, wow, like I see my dad navigating through all these homes and it just became a hidden passion. I did not know that I would, fall in love with real estate. I didn't know until I was 20s on my own. I thought nursing was my end all be all. And until I was like, no, I actually love real estate and I seen it growing up and no wonder, like no wonder. And so yeah, my dad, he's my role model. He's my first mentor. And so that's the reason why like I'm knee deep into investing.
Got it. And it's a perfect hedge, right? Having that real estate background and then having the expertise and the trust formation and just all the ins and outs, definitely, gives you a competitive edge in the marketplace from that standpoint in terms of your knowledge and your understanding of how, business goes. I mean, I like the iron sharpens iron, right? So I know you've shared with me some of your back office and systems and things of that nature. And I've implemented that with my team and definitely appreciative of that. So you have organization skills, administrative skills. I mean, you're a lady boss. What can you tell some of the other, minorities and ladies out here, the entrepreneurs, how to be a good administrator, right? Because a lot of people can be just running this race by themselves, but you also have to know how to coach people and be a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will tell anybody and everybody, right? One, you need systems in your business. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, Corey, because it is so important. I see a lot of people that they don't do the proper record keeping or bookkeeping in their business. They don't have meetings in their business, or they don't run their business off of a system. Right. And so for me, I run my business off of an operating system, and it's called the EOS operating system. So it's pretty much, the E stands for entrepreneur. So it's entrepreneurial operating system, EOS. And so my whole business runs that way, to where everything is systematized, right? So we have weekly meetings. I have a team of 5 people that work for me, right? And so we have weekly meetings every single Monday, 9 a.m. for 90 minutes. And that's where we go through all of the things that our organization is supposed to do this week, and everything that we accomplished last week, and what are the things that are hindering us from reaching our quarterly goals, and if we're on track to reach those quarterly goals. So I actually have an operations manager that helps facilitate all that. So I will tell you guys, one, get a system, right? Systems and automations are super important, because
Yes.
you can put yourself in a position to where you're leveraging AI. We leverage AI all day long when it comes to our business. We leverage, we have a lot of automation tools that help us, to where we don't need an employee to give a simple response back. We have AI to do it, right? So have these systems and these automations already built in, but then also have an operating system for your business, so that everything is ran the right way. Because at the end of the day, let's just say into the future, you want to sell your business. If your business is not structured the right way, nobody's going to want to buy it.
Hmm.
So you need to be running that race now, to put it in a position to where it's credible, to where if you wanted to sell it in 5 years, all of your ducks are in a row. All of your T's are crossed, all of your I's are dotted, and you don't have to then start making changes, right? So that's what I would tell anybody and everybody. And then leverage people too, right? So we have virtual assistants, right? We have people who are in other countries that are, their salary is very affordable for us. And we leverage their time, so that we're able to, do more things in our business and allow us to scale. So that's what I would tell anybody and everybody. If you want to run your business, run it the right way by running it on an operating system, leverage tools, automation, and different systems, and then leverage people to help you scale that business.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you again. You have such great administrative ability and gifts. So
Thank
sharing that
you.
hopefully will help a lot of our listeners here. And
Thank
I had a question off cuff. What are some of what do you think that people misunderstand about you most? I mean, you're obviously, very equipped, very talented, serial entrepreneur, various backgrounds. But what do you think that people can misunderstand about you most?
That's a really good question. And I say this all the time, and it just makes me laugh. And I know it's going to make you laugh. It's like, I think that people judge a book by its cover. So I
Hmm.
think that they judge me by my cover. And so for example, I have lashes on, right? And
Right.
so I have heard somebody say, I can't learn nothing from you because you have lashes on.
Oh, wow.
So, or I will be at like a speaking engagement, and people, they'll just see like a pretty face, right?
Right.
And they'll just have a simple conversation with me. And when I hit the stage and I start talking, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was going to come out of her mouth." That, like the power and the magnitude. And so after I'm done educating, they approach me from a different avenue. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I do want to learn from you," or I'm sorry, I didn't know that this was going to come out of your face, like out of your mouth. I thought that, I didn't know what to expect, right? And so I have experienced that and I'm okay with it. I embrace it. I think that I think that it is one of the challenging things is like people, they'll, judge a book by its cover. And I don't think that people should do that. I think that you should just, come to a situation non-judgmental and neutral and just ready to be a sponge and learn and embrace and get the guidance that you need. So I'm heavily misunderstood, and then also my age too. A lot of people are like, you too young, you look like you're like you haven't been through much. And it's like,
Right.
no, I started a lot of people don't know this, but like I started working when I was 14 years old in
Wow.
McDonald's. And I was looking at this whole entire operation
Hmm.
I'm looking at this operation, which is a franchise. And so instead of me twiddling my thumbs, I'm out here talking to the franchisee. And
Wow.
I'm like, cutting deals with them. I'm like, okay, what does it take? What's the ins and outs? What do I
Mhm.
need to do? At 14, I'm talking to multimillionaire franchisees that are telling me you need at least 500,000. I'm like, okay, no problem. I can get that.
Right. At 14.
Right. So it's like I have had the mindset of an entrepreneur since I was 14 years old, and you
Wow.
can't do nothing. And that's what has led me to where I am today.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So I like that you can speak to, the fact that you don't necessarily work to earn, you work to learn, and you as a young adolescent, you were in a corporate setting, but you've seen beyond the now, and now you're running your own company and got employees, and so that's awesome. That is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. It just lights me up.
So, Christina, I know you've had a lot of challenges that you've faced throughout life and your business, and obviously you've overcame that. But in every entrepreneur's journey, they feel like quitting, or some obstacle just seems unbearable that it can either make or break them. Does any of that resonate with you? Do you have any experiences you can share with the audience on situations of such that you've felt to the break of quitting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've been through a lot of things in my life, and I've also been a serial entrepreneur. One thing is that I had a business, right? And it was a slingshot rental company. And so in this slingshot rental company, we was renting out these three-wheel vehicles, right,
Mm.
over South Beach. And it was the coolest things. And I was pretty much like the first person in that space, especially down in Miami in the 305. So we was renting them out on South,
305.
the 305, you know it. So we was renting them out on South Beach. And one of the challenges that I was facing was that people kept crashing them. And it was a major liability for me because I was like the face of the business. And so they thought, oh, okay, I could just come after you. And so it brought me so much stress of renting out these little three-wheel cars that I was like, no, I got to get out of the game. So one thing that I was like super grateful for is actually having that business being owned by a trust, because even though I was getting pretty much death threats, I'm gonna just keep it real with you, right, where
All
people
right.
like one situation, there was an 18-year-old girl that she rented it out and she crashed into a restaurant within 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, right? And so she's kept calling and calling and calling, pretty much giving out death threats like, oh, I'm going to sue you because you didn't teach me how to drive the three-wheel car and all this stuff. And I'm like, girl, it is just like driving a regular car, right? And so I was like, you think you can sue me, but in the back end, you don't even know that you can't sue me because my business is owned by a trust. So even though I knew I was protected and I was
Hmm.
ready to go. It was causing me so much stress that I was like, it's not worth it. Like to me, like the fast money of me renting out these vehicles, it wasn't worth the stress or even knowing that people are crashing, they're breaking their arm, they're being hospitalized, people are getting total, like the vehicles are getting total. I was like, I don't want to be in this type of business
Hmm.
where it's high liability and it's high stress. I want my peace. And so that's why I totally got out of that business. I was like, it's not for me. Let me just go back to my foundation, right?
Right.
Let me just continue on with real estate. It was nice. It was a good 2-year run, but I can't with it. And even though I was protected by the trust, I still had to pay out a pocket for
Right.
the total cost.
Yeah.
So it's like to me, it was very challenging. But amongst me actually trying to scale that business, and that's why I call myself a serial entrepreneur because I've been in a lot of different industries and
Yeah.
spaces. But among me trying to scale that business, my mom dies from
Mm.
COVID. And I'm like, is this even all worth it? Because a lot of us were chasing a paper, let's just be honest, right? And so I
Hmm.
found myself in that space where I was chasing the dollar, chasing the dollar, chasing the dollar. But then in the midst of all that, my mom passes away, and I noticed and I witnessed, well, she didn't take anything with her. She had a house, she had a car, she had cash money in the bank. Did she take any of that with her? No.
No.
Exactly. So I was like, it's not worth it to chase the paper. So that's why now I work smarter and not harder. And so that's why it actually led me to closing that business, selling the rest of the slingshots that I had, dealing with the total losses that I was experiencing, grieving off of my mom's passing, and for me to move more into a passive approach, which is me creating digital products and selling them, right? Ebooks, courses, webinars, seminars, all this stuff. Me getting into that space where I'm like, okay, let me just monetize off of my knowledge and experience that I already have. And let me live this, this lifestyle that I've considered to be free versus me, chained to all of these, chained to a business that is causing me stress.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's great because a lot of times as an entrepreneur, I'm glad that you shared that because you can have so much diversification and so many different things going that um, it can kind of take away from the core of what you do, right? So you have a good foundation. Now you can kind of build from that. But, a lot of this is trial and error, right? I mean, you don't really know until you know, and certain things push you in a certain direction so that you can ultimately get where you need to be. So that's definitely admirable, and thank you for sharing that. I'm encouraged by that. Seeing a lot more of what I knew that you were. I knew you were still an entrepreneur, but you've had your hands in a lot of different things, and your success leaves receipts. So I'm glad that you shared that, and that should definitely be inspiring to many of our listeners. Coming from a woman, coming from a minority, I think that speaks volumes because a lot of people think that fighting is, it's masculine, but women fight too, for anything you believe on, for anything you stand on, especially your business, this is your baby, you're gonna fight for it, right? Especially if you have that deep calling of just expanding and impacting and doing something massive. So thanks for speaking to that.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you.
Well, Christina, thank you so much today for your time. Again, always a pleasure, speaking with you on any platform, online or in person or on stage. It's always enlightening and encouraging. You are a powerful force, and I thank you for sharing your experiences with the audience, and I'm sure they'll glean from that as well. Tell the people where they can find you, how they can follow you.
Thank you so much, Corey. So you can find me on all social media platforms. So I am Christina Yvette. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So you can just look for the handle I am Christina with a Christina Yvette, Ivettete. So you can find me there, or you can also find me on my brand name, the number 7 Ways to Wealth. So you can look us up on Instagram, YouTube, and ask us anything that you want to know. I'm an open book, you guys. So thank you so much, Corey, for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me onto your podcast and look forward to just impacting as many people as we possibly can.
Awesome. Thank you.